Hey everyone, Sycra here, and welcome to another episode of the Psychological Problems Podcast. Today I'm joined... Flavia.
Insert
preposition.
Of your choosing. Hi.
And Bobby Bag.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an unexpected trio. I didn't expect them to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had so many guests on these things. They're always different. Who knows who's gonna show up?
Da, da, da.
All right. So, to begin with, Flavia and I were arguing about how to proceed because we have different ideas on teaching.
Yeah.
So, what's your view?
Crush them with your bulldozer, and whatever sprouts in the wake shall survive and thrive.
Yeah, Flavia believes in a more tough approach to learning.
Yeah.
You have to push people to their limits. If they can take it.
Yeah, you have to, talk to the person
evolution.
on the edge of the cliff, and then you just give them a shove, and then they will swim. They will swim.
What? In the air? As they're falling down to their death? What?
There's water underneath.
Do they survive the impact?
You didn't mention that,
They
see?
have to.
It's so difficult for the audience. Oh, are they... So, I was visiting my relatives. And, when we were above them, it got hard. What? Well, because, I told you, right, that we're in a plane and the oxygen, the pressure changed and it was hard to breathe.
Yeah.
What?
When we were above them, why would you be above your relatives? There are a few things that could happen. Either you're
in a room above them, second floor.
Why would you
Or
assume
as you would
that?
call it in Romania, what? Third floor?
First.
First? The first is the second floor.
Yeah.
Okay, -1.
So why would your brain jump to the assumption of you're in a room above them?
Because it could be anything.
Instead of logical, educated guesses, which would be first, you're visiting your relatives, therefore, when we were above them, you flew there, probably. Either that, or you were at the dinner table, and you got into a fight, and then you jumped over the table, and then you're above them, and it was hard to hit them in the face. Because they're your relatives.
What do you have to say about this, Bob? This is illogical. You could have said, I was flying to visit... I was flying in a plane. What?
I was flying in a plane!
Come on! It could be a helicopter.
I was flying in a plane. This is what happens when you overfeed your audience and they don't have to they just take up a passive spectating role for your message. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just listening to this being said, and therefore I will tune you out sooner or later because I'm not invested, I'm not involved. I can spectate, and then if I remember anything from what was said, then I'm thinking about it, but then I'll just, okay.
How is introducing the subject or the context, how is that making them not involved? I'm just telling them this is...
You are giving them all the information, therefore why should they be involved?
So the important thing is to give them no information.
No, the important thing is to give them the essential information or a drop of information from which they can do the deducing work to handle the rest.
So I should start by saying, hey, Sycra!
Yeah!
Here. Wait. Yeah, that works. But...
Yeah!
I fooled myself! If you want to get... Then, it would be a good idea to...
Exactly!
Why? Why is that helpful? Nobody knows what you're talking about.
When somebody listens to an elliptical sentence, a sentence which is missing...
When somebody knows what elliptical sentence means.
I am just explaining it. A sentence which is missing an important part. Either the verb or the subject or whatever have you.
Yeah.
Their brain will kick into gear to I detect a problem, I detect an inconsistency, therefore I will pay more attention because your brain is trained to look at inconsistency in your environment. It's like, oh, is this a threat? Is this something of interest? Is this food? Granted, it's not food in this case, but it is something of interest. That there's a rift in the sentence that you're expecting it to go this way, and it's not.
Perhaps you expect people or most people to be doing this.
I do.
But what if they don't?
That's a problem to be fixed. That's not something to be encouraged. Encourage them and cater to them doing less work than they could do, because they can do the work. They can follow harder sentences than, I don't know, the news is saying. Because this is what's been perpetrated a lot since the 50s. Since they started doing their radio things, and then, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a news flash report, and then the president has done this. Like, what? Why wouldn't your brain just tunes that out?
Because you're trying to convey a message, and it's helpful to convey it to as wide an audience as possible. Yes,
but by doing that, and by looking, because you're still looking at the fringe, like you're trying to convey, your audience is an entire bell curve, right? And there are outliers. As we were arguing before, we were arguing about outliers within the bell curve of who is most represented in your audience. And then you have outliers, sure, and you may have outliers that are, they already got it and they don't need all this exposition. However, you also have the outliers who can't get it, or who don't get it, or who need so much work to get it that it invalidates their point as well. It's like, why would you cater to that?
I'm catering to the bell curve. The problem is largely that you believe the middle and everything on the left side of the bell curve are
That's not true. That's not true. What I believe is that the bell curve has become skewed and shifted and sort of lopsided because of the way media has gone on and on and on conveying points. It's like, you need all of this until you get to your point, which could have been said in out of an hour. You could have said this in 5 minutes, and the rest of the 55 minutes you could be thinking about it, reflecting about it, making your own decisions, making your own conclusions, making your own choices, growing, instead of, you you laid in your chair and you stared at the screen, and for an entire hour you were spectating whatever was going on in front of you. You didn't intervene. You didn't take much away from it other than, these guys are talking about something and they have opinions. Oh, cool. They have opinions. There's not enough room in an explicit sentence for your audience to get involved into it. There's no, because if you say everything, what are they gonna add?
I don't know. I get what you're saying. However, I do think there is value in clarity.
Yes, clarity. Clarity is one thing, but chasing after clarity will lead you to the lowest common denominator. And if you are catering to the lowest common denominator, first of all, you're really underestimating the majority of your audience. Because they're really not that. It's only a short, tiny segment of your audience that is that.
I don't think my audience is the lowest common denominator.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like catering to a handful of people who say, I don't get it. Either because they can't do the work of thinking, or they won't do the work, or they're used to not doing the work. Because, you turn on the TV and they just tell you what to think. You read a magazine and it just tells you what to think. You don't seek out information. You don't seek out facts. You don't dig deep enough to find your own truth, your own reality. It's like, you are living in what's been just spread around you. You're living in other people's blah, 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 blah.
All right, that's a great lead-in into our topic for the day. One of them. Okay, so what do we do? Which one are we starting with then?
I don't know. Let's do the color thing.
All right. So it seems so trivial now.
Yeah. Bob. What do you have to say, Bob? You're just the backing vocals.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how are your cold sores, Bob?
They're, well, you can tell by the sound of my voice, probably, and the way I'm talking, that it's pretty bad.
No. All right. So this color thing, where let me start with a neutral canvas. So I was thinking about this question a long time ago, and I was gonna make a video on it, and then I thought, no, this is not a good video. Let me not do this. Lately, I have been second guessing myself all the time. It's probably not good, but that's just what's happening.
It's probably not good. I've been second guessing myself. It's probably not good, but oh well.
Yeah. I've like very little confidence in teaching, but I'm gonna try and go through this anyway. So, yeah, but now I'm catering to what? The less than the bell curve?
No, you're just second guessing. You're second guessing.
Okay. So I was wondering about the question, what is your favorite color, right? Because people ask that of kids. They ask, what is your favorite color? And I thought about it, and I thought, people usually evolve in terms of favorite colors, where they go from things. Maybe they don't, but to an artist, it has a certain kind of development, which I thought might be interesting to share. And so I thought I would go through a timeline of, I guess, what my experience was and why, and where it led to. So, okay, so as far back as I can remember, my first color that I liked, because I thought about this, what is your favorite color? I'm like, I don't know. And I thought, okay, maybe like a sky blue. I don't know why I thought this, but it seemed that blue was an acceptable answer for a boy.
I don't know why I thought this, but it seemed like blue was an acceptable answer. You answered your own question.
Because blue was an acceptable answer, therefore I said this. And then the next thing I did is I saw this color that was probably around this, like a turquoise. And I liked how and this is when I'm like 2, so don't judge too harshly. No. But I thought of the color, I guess it was more like this, the color turquoise, and it was this idea that, oh, that's a big word. That sounds bigger. That sounds better than blue. And I didn't know enough colors, but I heard sky blue, and it's like, yeah, sky blue. That sounds fine. Yeah, my favorite color is sky blue. And then if I thought about it, I thought, what do I really like? And I thought, oh, I like black. But no, sky blue. Okay, and then turquoise. And then there's this nagging thing about black. But I heard somewhere black isn't a color, it's a shade. And people were saying this all the time. Black's not a color. It can't be your favorite color. Black, no. Yeah. And then I thought, I kind of like purples, but a certain kind of purple. And I don't know how I got this, but purple was not a good color to like for a boy at the time or something. Oh. It was something that it wasn't that accepted. I like how every one of your choices has the social thing attached connection. To it. Oh, how will this make me look? It goes a long way to saying what I am. So then I thought of like indigo, because it was dark, which is like, oh, it's close to black, maybe a bit more like that. And it can be considered towards the blue. So I got that covered. So it is a color. And it's towards blue, but it's got purple in it. I like purple. Which color should I like so that it leaves me with no openings? Exactly. Pretty much. And then it got back to the point where I was more rebellious. So I'm like, no. What color do you like? I like black. So for a long time, black was my go-to thing. It's like, this feels right. It describes how I feel inside, what with the black heart and all, and the depression. And yeah, let's go with black. But I kept these, and then as I got older, then what? I guess this lasted for a long time. This probably the indigo and the black lasted for 15 years or so. I guess I was in my 20s when I started, or not 20s, I was probably like 16 when I started thinking about reds. It's like kind of like red and black together, and that sort of changed. Maybe more like no, my friend. more like that, I guess. I like these two colors together. And then I started thinking, so I like color combination. So I like red if it's with black. And then I like indigo by itself. And I don't hate teal and I don't hate sky blue. But I did have colors I did hate. Hated orange. I thought orange was terrible. I didn't like green. The closest I would get to green that was acceptable was this color, which is similar to the turquoise. If it had enough blue in it, okay. And I hated brown. Thought that's awful. That's just a poo color. And I associated these with poo colors.
Depending on what you've eaten.
Yeah, depending on what you've eaten. Although, my cousin ate a lot of blueberries when he was a baby, and he had blue poo because of that. Like, we saw it in the diaper. It was very blue. So blue can be a poo color. What I used to like. People, some kids were racist when I was young, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're the color of poo. You're brown. You're the color of poo." And I would say, "You're the color of bird poo." Anyway,
comebacks. Moving
on. Yeah. So black and red that served me well. Black, red, indigo that served me well until like I'm very ashamed about this, by the way. So people who are like, why were you so close-minded? I was, but I'm not. It's not a thing I'm proud of. Then I started thinking about combinations and realizing, like, yeah, I like certain things. I mean, I don't mind orange. Like, if you have this orange, I didn't hate it if it was beside, like, a dark gray. I thought, no, that's okay. And I started really liking white. I thought, white's nice. Even yellow with black, I don't mind it. It's pretty okay. And this is like none of what I'm saying is these are what good colors are. I'm just saying this is what I liked.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing a pattern, and it didn't occur to me until I started looking at the color wheel. See here, this color wheel thing, and the poo colors. Like, okay, basically, if you look at red. Let's say this red.
With enough beats.
Yeah. That's in the middle. And I'm just going to change the hue. I'm not going to change the saturation, the value. I'm not going to change the brightness. If I went this way, it's like, yeah, I still like that. I still like that. I'm okay. This is fine. There's no problems. I don't really like super saturated blues unless, like, I like ultramarines. I like darks. Oh, I'm gonna go this way. This is all okay. Wait a minute now. So, by this point, I don't like it anymore. So, let's put this here. And then it's like, yeah, don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. No, what have I done? Don't like it. I don't like it. So, that was very interesting to me to realize I have a bias towards pretty much one half of the color wheel. And that led me to consider, like, oh, I have a tendency towards things. And later on I realized, like, oh, I like pastels. I don't mind them because they seem to work together. And I started being more interested in color harmonies, like what worked with something else. And darkness. I like darkness. I like desaturated colors. I found I prefer, like, I don't mind tons of colors if they're in this very... I don't like this one. But if they're darker, it's like, you can get away with a lot. But I thought that was something, for me personally, interesting, that I had a bias towards a color wheel, a side of the color wheel. And I wondered if other people are like that. Are you like that?
Well, when we started talking about it, we pretty much discovered that we both have a bias, and it's on the opposite sides of the color wheel.
Yeah.
Like, we have gaps, in each other's, like in our own halves of the color wheel. But if you combine, it's like, oh, I don't like green. I like green. Oh, I don't like orange. Oh, I like orange. And then for myself, it's like, yeah, if it's, I like orange, but only if it's with this. And I had a pretty similar evolution to yours.
All right. Do you want to describe your evolution in color?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So let's turn that layer off.
Okay. This will be.
Don't injure yourself.
I will try.
So the reason I say that is last time Flavia used
first time I used
first and last time Flavia used the Cintiq. It was what, 20 minutes to
20
super
minutes.
bad pain.
Yeah.
So okay, will you know if you're getting injured? Because you could just use a mouse. Just use a mouse then, because the mouse will be fine.
Okay.
I don't want to risk it.
Okay, so when I was really young, I remember liking pretty much all the colors. I remember liking colors because they were interesting to me, so I don't know how to convey that, I guess. Everything at once. And then that was until I was maybe 6 or 7. And then I discovered black. Much like you.
Should I make it bigger?
Yeah. Alright. So I discovered black. And that as well lasted me for quite a few years. It lasted for quite a few years until I was sort of discovering greens, more like army greens, I suppose. More like desaturated dark greens, and there's some variety in it, but I know I really liked certain types of greens combined with black, but only a certain type of black and only a certain type of material and only a certain type of fabric. So for me, it was about context more than just, greens, because I was very into camouflage prints. And the ones I found initially were all like, oh, green, army green and whatever. And then I discovered blue camouflage. It's like, oh, this, if done well, this has a pleasant feel to it, even though I didn't really like blue. I've never really been a fan of blue. So
ever since you blew your nose.
So, I didn't like blue, and I knew that, especially this saturated blue screen of death blue.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, not.
We all agree on that one.
Yeah, we all agree on this one. And
there's gonna be so many. I like that color.
I didn't really like brown either.
That's not brown. There we go.
Yeah, like these things, like no. And I really, for the longest time, maybe until I was 20, I hated certain type of dirty yellow, more towards orange, like all of this thing, especially when paired with red. Because what it did is it reminded me of fat tissue on top of flesh. Because when you look at a dissection, or when you look at a piece of meat that has fat or lard on it, it looks like that. And you have...
Your mouth's watering.
Yeah. And for myself, I really hated handling that material. Because it's disgusting. Handling fat is disgusting. It's for me, at least. For me. Maybe there are people out there who like handling fat, and...
They're called chubby chasers.
Yeah, but for me, I really hated this color combination. And then, I went through this weird burnout episode when I was 18 to 19. And then my taste changed in terms of food, in terms of color, and in terms of light that I liked. So until then, I was pretty much stuck to black and camouflage and a certain type of, I guess, crimson, you would call it. A very saturated red family, maybe towards purple, but not too much out of that. And then I realized light exists. So you can move towards these things, which are more
But you put that in your dislike color pile.
Yes, because what happened is my dislike pile began to shift. And it began to dissipate because what happened is I was introducing things into the colors that I really hated, and that made it better. It's like, oh, if I put a certain type of orange next to this gross, dirty yellow that I hate, I actually don't mind this yellow. And if I make it a bit greener, it's mustard, and I hated mustard color. But then, oh, if you put this purple and this oxblood reddish thing next to it, oh, it actually works. And if you put this other shiny thing next to it, so it just expanded into a lot more things. And I discovered, oh, patterns have rhythm to them. It's not just colors. Patterns like, oh, if you have the same arrangement of these three colors, the orange, the yellow, and the desaturated light yellow, you can arrange them in many different ways in stripes to get different results. You can have a thicker proportion of, a bigger proportion of orange, and it'll look a certain way. And you can have a bigger proportion of the whitish thing, and it will act like which is the base and which is the accent. And that's, like, ever since then, I've discovered that colors don't really matter as much as the context they're in. However, in the past, year of talking to you, we've discovered that I have another bias, which is the value range.
Oh, okay.
So, to preface that, I have to say I have really bad eyesight. I'm very nearsighted.
Yeah.
And because of that, I have photophobia. Which means that when it's really bright outside, my eyes really hurt, and I get very unpleasant.
I have photophobia too. I hate photos. I hate myself in photos.
Yeah. Yeah, so my eyes really hurt, and I get very annoyed because I can't tell contours as well when it's super shiny outside and bright and black. Oh, it's nice weather, it's sunny, but god damn it, I hate it.
Yeah.
So the weather,
if it's overcast,
like, I can tell anything. Or if it's, like, dark. If it's nighttime outside, or if it's twilight. It's like, I can see everything!
Yeah.
Everything!
I can't see anything.
It's like, oh, we're driving around, and it's like, oh, did you see that tree? Wow, that's cool. It's like, what tree? Where? Where are we going? And if it's sunny outside, you'll be like, oh, did you see that tree? What tree? I see nothing. I'm in pain. So, what I like is pretty much any color scheme, any whatever, so long as it's close enough together. You can have the accents, and I'll like it, even if it's a disgusting yellow, or even if it's a brownish, pooish, whatever, but put it next to enough of its own... No, that's not good. But close enough to its own... people, I guess. My colors are very xenophobic. Yeah. They need to be with their own. And
Indians and Mexicans are okay.
Yeah. And then you need to have like a nice accent, maybe. A twinkle. And then probably I'll like it. Maybe it's too saturated. Yeah, everything's like, oh, too saturated. It's too much. It's too...
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing about... It's about combinations of colors. I agree with that. Yeah, that's kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up. Bob?
Oh boy.
You have the board.
Well, not much to show though, and I've only recently started to venture into color with my works.
So where'd you begin?
Where'd I begin? Some of the earliest memories I have. I'm not sure if I'm going to be very good at picking up the colors, as you guys are. But let's see. I knew that I liked black for what it represented. I just liked the idea that it's dark, it's menacing. It represents, I don't know, just darkness or something like that. I also liked, what you guys found disgusting, but more, let's see, more yellowish, or I wouldn't say yellow, but like I liked, I don't know, gold. I don't think that's a gold color, but I don't really know how to pick it. I liked silver, and I'm not sure how to get that color either. But let's just say that's something. It's supposed to represent silver. I don't know. I liked gold. I liked silver. I liked things that represented prestige or quality, I suppose. In high school, I'm pretty sure I liked the idea of something that's silvery blue or something, but I don't think that's silvery blue. But just colors like whether it's just stuff that represents quality. More recently, within the past few years, I've really started liking orange, I suppose, because it's or colors that represent sunset or twilight times. Let me see if I can get the right type of color for this. I don't know, something like that. Just when there's sunset, when there's twilight, it's like it's the only time of day that I can tolerate going out. Because like with Flavia, I don't like it when everything's super bright. It's very overwhelming for me, and especially when the light hits the pavement and it bounces back. I can't stand it. I hate going out during this time. And I suppose recently I've been using a lot of fleshy colors, but I'm not sure if that's because I actually like fleshy colors or if it's because those are the colors that I know how to use right now, and they harmonize fairly well with like other colors, like the reds and so on and so forth. Yeah, those are the colors that I pick.
Okay, that's interesting because most of your colors are, if you tried to paint them, you'd have to use multiple colors.
Yeah.
Like to get gold. It
Yeah, because he's got texture as well.
Yeah. Doesn't look like, and same with sunset. It's not one. Yeah. It's the combination of.
Yeah, it's the range.
It's a range of colors together.
Yeah. Right. That's interesting. But for all of us, a lot of our initial color choices are very. What does this represent? What does this remind me of? It's very symbolistic thinking. Do you think there's anyone who likes colors that isn't in that? Like, do you think there's any other way to see color? I think so. Yeah, I think so because there is that initial programming of how you said it. It's like, oh, this is sky blue. Mm. This is an animal type of thinking. Like, oh, you look at this and you associate it very, very strongly with the sky. Because that's what you as a human are supposed to be seeing. Like, oh, you're going outside and the sky is this color, therefore it's daytime, therefore you have to proceed to your activities and everything else. And then you darken it, it's like, oh, it's orange, therefore shutting down and going to sleep. That's sunset colors. But for us, it seems to be very immediate. Like, oh, I handled fatty textures and I didn't like it, therefore this represents this. And for Bob like, oh god damn it, I hate it when the light bounces on the pavement and whatever. Oh, I only like going out in sunset, therefore this represents this. Like, it's a more personal association. Yeah. And with your things, it's always a conflicting thing. It's like, oh, what am I supposed to be liking, or what's acceptable, and what am I drawn to? 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 Yeah. I suppose, but then at the end, when I have like half of the color wheel, yeah, but that's our adult choices. Uh-huh. Our adult choices are ever on the expansion, ever that's on the true. Understanding more about. Yeah, but the things aren't really. It's more color wisdom, I guess. Yeah, because when I was a kid, especially when I was younger, I had a lot of trouble with magenta. Because it was like that's very foreshadowing. Okay.
You're very Babylon 5 right now.
But it was like, I don't like pink because pink is for girls and pink. Yeah, like, exactly. But it's close to purple, and I kind of like it, and but I'm not sure. So it was very like difficult. Our things as children were very reactive and very immediate. Yeah. However, now it's more like, yeah, but there's this, and there's not just one side to yellow, and you have this, and pastels, even though they're not the pastels of the color I like, they work well together, and it's very, you have a compromise, and you're faceting it more into what its purpose is. Yeah. And you're thinking less about, I like this because, and more about, how is this used? How am I gonna portray something? Is this the right color for this? Yeah. So the whole point of this really was initially, one, I'm curious if other people, feel free, obviously, to write what your color choices are and what you like. But it's to go from a simple question, like, what is your favorite color? And to think about it a bit more and evaluate where does this come from? And really, I'd like to be doing this with all the subjects we bring up. Analyze, what does this really mean?
Yeah.
So on to, I guess, our next topic.
Yeah.
What is
What is our next topic? Could it be?
Oh, are we gonna do that?
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Okay.
So,
basically, I was thinking about. Actually, I want to go to the other part first.
Go to the other part first.
So I wanted to talk about this thing.
You're teasing them. Is it gonna be? No.
No, my friend. So there's this thing that I've been thinking about a lot, and I don't really know how to resolve it, but I don't know how many people are like this, but I certainly am. When I would watch art interviews or people talking who were successful, and they talked about, well, I'm really passionate, and I do art because that's what I love, that's my whole life. And they'd also say, if you don't have this, you shouldn't get into art. If you're not passionate, don't do this, just do something else. And I kept thinking, this feels unfair because I didn't really have the passion, but at the same time, everything else seemed worse by comparison. Art seemed seems close enough to what I want. It allows me to be creative, and I want to be creative. I don't want to just do, a 9 to 5. But there's also this understanding that I'm kind of lazy. I don't really put that much work in. I'm not super passionate. I don't really want to do a lot of things that seem to be necessary to become an artist. And I don't think, or at least I haven't really heard this talked about too much. And maybe it is, because if you possess these traits, you will not be successful as an artist. I pretty much realized that early on when I would listen to art interviews, because they all kept saying the same thing. If you're not passionate, you have no business being in art. And I was just thinking, I'll prove them wrong. maybe I can do it. Yeah. Did you have this at all, Bob? Or because you, unlike me, you did draw a lot more than I did when you were younger.
Yeah, I drew it more out of habit, and I think that's sort of my foundation when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm not particularly passionate about a lot of things. I have short bursts of passion, but I burn out, and the burnout lasts very long. So for me, if somebody were to say, "Oh, am I an artist?" I don't think I'd be the really successful one. I don't think I'd be the super passionate one. I guess I would say if I were to consider myself an artist, I'd at least consider myself an honest one, because I draw what I draw. And that's really all I can do, really. But when it comes to passion, I don't know. It's a bit more hard to say. I think for me, it's just different. It's just habits more than anything else. And it's also that I didn't have a choice. I wasn't really good at anything else besides art.
All right. And Flavia, what was your art? Why did you want to be an artist, or think you could be an artist? Or
honestly, I didn't think I could be an artist until 3 years ago, 3.5 maybe. Before, I had spent my time thinking, no, I couldn't possibly be an artist. No. And I was
But where does that come from? The no, the such an obvious no.
I couldn't really grasp how you could do this for a living without dying of hunger and of like you have such a scarcity of resources that you will just live for a few short years and then you'll get sick and die of consumption or whatever. We are Russian, we know these things. but I was also much more interested in a ton of other things. Like I liked literature, I liked math, I liked physics, I liked programming, I liked reading about a ton of things. I liked reading about religion, I liked reading about philosophy, I liked reading about law, I liked just getting more information. And drawing was something that I did when I was stressed. And as a kid, I would draw ducks in combat boots, or mainly ducks in combat boots, or stuff like that. I had a thing for ducks in combat boots, but I didn't know they were combat boots until later on. Or I think I was drawing them with gas masks. Really badly done gas masks. Anyway, so when I got into school, I had a pretty terrible art teacher. We had to do art, and we had this guy who was showing up to class drunk and angry, and he really hated his job. He really hated being a teacher. He hated the kids. And what he would do is he would shove us all in his small workshop where he would work on cutting mosaic pieces for a big mural that the school had commissioned him for. And whenever somebody was asking a question or having some unclear things or having some issues or talking amongst each other, because he would just leave us be, so like tell us to draw 10 characters on this sheet, E high and E tall and E wide and whatever, with this theme. And whenever he would hear noise or something that bothered him, or whenever one of us interfered with his things, he would just grab his big stick with which he was cutting the murals and he would hit us over the back. And it was super heavy and it was super hard. And most of our times and our connection to art class was rushing so we could get the spots furthest away where his stick couldn't reach.
Oh, shit.
And that lasted for years until, I think when I was in 8th grade, he got either fired or quit because he probably had cirrhosis or something from all of that drinking. But he was finally gone. And I realized I was so relieved. I can actually draw in school again. So I was drawing in class just to entertain myself or to not make a commotion because I was bored in class a lot. And I was drawing to keep myself occupied and not run my mouth and get kicked out of class again and again and again. And then once I went to high school, no more art classes. It's like, that was great. No more art classes. No more teachers to tell me, oh, you should do this and 10 characters on this page and you should draw this pot and you should draw this pan and you should whatever. And I found that I was drawing a lot more in class. Pretty much in all throughout my classes, I was drawing, sketching, and just doing my own thing or reading and stuff and just filling up whatever was unoccupied of my brain with drawing. But I never thought that, this is more than just a reaction, like an earthquake thing, an earthquake detector, a seismograph. Your hand moves because you're anxious and your hand dances to your anxiety. That was my thing. It's like, I want to keep this to myself, actually. I don't want to draw 10 characters on a page for the rest of my life, because that's what I thought was institutionalized art or professional art. That's what I feared it was all about. And I did toy around with the idea of architecture for a while, because I thought, this is close enough to drawing that it fulfills something, but it's not close enough to the drawings I make for myself to take them away from me. And I focused on more intellectual practices because I had a lot of interest. Psychology was a thing that I was interested in before I even knew it was called psychology. So that was a good choice to go into. I don't really regret it. I only regret not acknowledging the fact that I was also very interested in art and how afraid I was that if I do this, I would want to make it work. And if it doesn't work, if I'm this scared of making it work because I really would like to do it for a living. I really would want to occupy my time with this. And for the longest time, I thought, no, this can only be a pastime. And my insecurity was, no, I'm not good enough. But I never considered you can get good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, no, what is all there is.
Yeah.
Training didn't really reach me in other than you have to do still lives, or you have to do this, you have to do that, and you have to do what they tell you, because that was all I saw, and I was very, very misinformed and uninformed until I met you. Well, no, not until I met you, until I saw your videos, because then I met you. But yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, so it's difficult because even with students, you sometimes have this concern that they're not really aware what it takes to be an artist. And for myself, I didn't have that much passion going for me. It felt like this was all I could do though. Like, as far as having a job in life, I suppose it's got to be art. Music I would have done if I had training or something or experience, but I didn't have that, so it felt like that was out of bounds. And then writing felt like it's a second to art.
How come you thought that music you could only do if you have training, but with art it wasn't really that?
Because growing up, people would talk about how, oh, you've practiced music, you have to practice, and you have to start from a young age. This was something I heard, but with art it was all about talent. Oh, they're talented. All I heard was people saying, oh, you're good at art, you must be talented. Oh, this artist is very talented.
How misleading.
I thought, am I talented? I wondered, am I talented enough to do this? It wasn't until my 20s that I learned, oh, you can learn art. It's possible not to be talented. Before it was more like, kind of like, you have a lottery ticket, but it's in an envelope, and you're not sure if you've won, and you have to check it eventually to see, did I win or lose? But you can't check yet. And the only way you can check, and just hoping. So I can't verify this. I guess you don't need an envelope, you just need the numbers to come up. Yeah, there's my experience with lottery stuff. But anyway, I just don't know. I don't know. Do I have the golden ticket or not? And the golden ticket seemed to be talent. And then after it became, oh, you can learn this. And that was a bit actually relieving in a way. But then I was also scared because I hadn't had any formal training to that point. And it seemed, I didn't know how good was. I would see people's work who were professional, but I had no idea how long it would take to get there, or if it was possible to get there, or what happened, what it takes to do that. So I was very much unsure. And then just by virtue of sticking with it, because I had no alternative. I mean, this is one of the things that I suppose I may not have a talent, but I had this belief that, so being depressed, I became very suicidal. And a lot of people, when they're suicidal, because I did have I did make suicide attempts and clearly didn't succeed. But a lot of people sort of give up at that point. And the way I saw it is, I am willing to die. This I know. I have gone through enough to, end up at the hospitals and things. Like, I did want to die. This was verifiable that I did want to die. And I did think, or I didn't believe life could get better. But that afforded me a unique perspective. Because it's like, wait a minute. I'm willing to die. Because I used to be super afraid of being homeless. That was my biggest fear, is being homeless and not being able to support myself. And I just didn't want that to ever happen. So I have this fear of being homeless, but I also am willing to kill myself. And why not just take the risk then? Because if I fail at art, what's going to happen? Am I going to be homeless? No, I'll just kill myself. Okay, so I have an out now. So it sort of gave me the courage I needed to pursue art, because it was,
Yeah, what do
I have to lose?
Yeah, what do you do if you had nothing to lose?
Yeah, and then it seemed like, well, just do art. And it lasted long enough. And of course, if you've heard my stories, you know that, I was on government assistance for a while, which did help me pursue art and art education a bit. But yeah, it got me far enough that I discovered that it's not actually about passion, it's about mileage. And the people who have the mileage, who put in the work, tend to be the people who are passionate. And everyone else gives up before that point, or seems to give up before that point. And so I did become an artist, like professional or whatever, by virtue of just sticking to it and believing that, I guess, if this fails, I can always kill myself. It's not a terrible philosophy.
Yeah, it's not a terrible philosophy. It's probably the most creative view on suicide I've heard in a while.
Yeah, because otherwise it seems pointless. Like, what? You're suicidal and you're not going to use this. You realize how much of a boon this is. You're suicidal. It means you can kill yourself. You've overcome the survival instinct. Now you can achieve all your dreams. Pursue your dreams.
From suicidal to pursue your dreams in one sentence. Yeah. Only on your channel.
Well, it seems like the opposite side, like two sides of a coin, right?
Yep.
The other side to the coin. If you have nothing to lose, then you have everything to gain.
Yeah.
No fear of failure, right?
Yeah. So, what scares me, though, is when people... Because I wouldn't say talent is the most important thing. And because of that, I and many other people have talked about you don't need to be talented to be good at art. But there is something that does matter more, and it seems to be dedication. Sticking to it and also being realistic in understanding how much work it takes. And when I see someone who only has dreams, I want to be an artist, or especially I want to be a concept artist, but they don't have they're not dedicated, and they don't have mileage, and they're not really understanding what it means to be a good student. Then I worry. Then it's like, oh, even if you were talented, I would worry that maybe you're not cut out for this. And of course, I'm not gonna, like, in my view, I wouldn't discourage anyone because I think at any point you can turn your life around. You can decide, like, screw it, I'm gonna change. I'm going to become more than what I was. So I hold out hope in that. But it is kind of like, oh, okay, there are some things that make it a bit scary in terms of understanding, well, is this possible for me? And with that, I thought maybe we could talk a bit about Robert Henri. So Flavia's been reading The Art Spirit. It's a book by Robert Henri. Or Henry, as Walt Disney calls him.
Henry.
Maybe that's how you say it. Maybe that's how he says it. Maybe.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the same as what did you say? Turquoise? It's turquoise because it means Turkish in French.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
But it's like turquoise. I guess everybody here says it like this, but it's not I really like it when you keep the meaning and the root of the word in how you pronounce it or how you say it or how you... Because there's always... It's kind of like watching dubbed anime. It's like, you watch it in English, you lose a lot of the Japanese way that they convey their message. The words might be the same, the jokes may be translated, but you don't keep their initial intention.
Yeah.
And even with, like, just words that are taken from French or taken from Latin or taken from Greek, and then you say Naruto, or it's like, that doesn't have the same ring or feel to it as Naruto.
Yeah. Yeah. I really wonder what they'll do with Boruto.
No, they're probably going to translate it as Bolt, right?
I hope so.
Because
at least then it's something.
Because that was their initial intent.
Better than Naruto.
Naruto. Yeah. So Robert.
Oh yeah. So I don't know.
We should say who he is. Yeah, say who this guy is.
So Robert Henri is this old man. He's dead now.
Dead now? Like
he died in 1929 and was born in 1865.
Yeah.
His book was published by Perseus Books Group. That is all.
So
that is all you need to know.
He was an artist and art teacher. And a lot of his views I personally agree with because they're based on common sense in terms of what, not just art education, but what education should be or what it's meant for and how it should be used ideally. And for him, my biggest sadness after reading his book was that he was so idealistic and he had high hopes for everything. but
he didn't realize the cyclical nature of humanity.
Yeah.
All right. So I start at the some students thing.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what? It's about art school, but
it's not just about art school. It's about how to think. Or why common sense is good when thinking and why knowing yourself is good.
And is it better if I speak normally or with accents or silly voices or...
I don't know.
Some students possess the school they work. No, I'll speak normally.
Yeah.
All right. Some students possess the school they work in. Others are possessed by the school. Does that sound like you? Like this is what's in...
Yeah, we're gonna stop and comment along the way, so it's not all from the book, but this is a very that's all in a nutshell. It's all there. What are you, a slave to your environment, or are you using your environment to better yourself?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, some students, they're possessed by the school, and some of them possess the school. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah? You mean?
Yeah. Okay. Alright, should I keep going? Yeah, okay. This me. Let a student enter the school with this advice. No matter how good the school is, his education is in his own hands. All education must be self-education.
Yes. So say we all.
I agree.
Let him realize the truth of this, and no school will be a danger to him. The school is a thing of the period. It has the faults and the virtues of the period. It either uses the student for its own success, or the self-educating student uses it for his success. This is generally true of all schools and students of our time. And it continues to be true.
Yeah.
Do I have to keep... I just keep going, or...?
Yeah.
All right. You can butt in if I say something that you feel...
I agree with pretty much all of it.
I agreed before, and
You agreed when I was still in diapers.
Yeah. When I still liked sky blue. Did I tell you I don't really like sky blue anymore?
You didn't.
I think I stopped liking it once I discovered indigo.
Oh. Poor sky blue.
Yeah.
Goodbye, blue sky.
Okay. It is up to the student whether he becomes a school-made man or whether he uses the school as a place of experience where there are both good and bad advices, where there are strengths and weaknesses, where there are facilities and much information to be had from the instructors, and how much to be gained by association with other students. He may learn equally from the strong and the weak students. There are models to work from and a place to work in. The self-educator judges his own course, judges advices. Why does he always say advices? That's how it's said? Not advice, period?
No, that's probably how he was saying it, like, advice coming from multiple sources.
Uh-huh. Okay. Judges advices, judges the evidence about him. He realizes that he is no longer an infant. He is already a man. Or a woman, I guess, now.
Or yeah.
has his own development in process. No one can lead him. Many can give advices. But the greatest artist in the world cannot point his course, for he is a new man. Just what he should know, just how he should proceed, can only be guessed at. A school should be an offering of opportunity, not a direction, and the student should know that the school will be good for him only to the degree that he makes it good. It is a field for activity, where he will see much, hear much, and where he must be a judge, selecting for his special need and daily discovering his need. When we have bred a line of self-educators, there will then be no fear of schools. This is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it so it's like,
yeah. This ties into a lot of what we were talking about for the past couple of streams, not streams,
all
podcasts. Yeah,
yeah.
It's
pretty
like
much
with especially with that response video about like art center and everything. It's like a lot of people nowadays seem to be, or students, they seem to be going into a school with the idea that the school is a parental quorum that will teach you about life, will guide you into the industry, or like tell you how the ropes work, or like it's a lot of submitting your own agency and handing it over to the school to like make what you will of me, just make me into something.
But the successful students all followed this what's in this book kind of pretty much. Like I think about them, and they were all doing stuff on their own. They were listening to what the teacher said, but then they were working after school on their own thing, figuring stuff out. So
you can't be excellent if you are just a rehash of a textbook.
Yeah, or if you're too reliant on the teacher in a way, when it's like, tell me what to do, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. I'll just do it if you tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
It should be more, I really want to know this, and you happen to know. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Can you make this easier for me? So continuing. Those who have done distinguished work in the past and have opened new roadways of vision and invented techniques specific to such visions have done it in spite of environment. They have learned what the schools had to offer, how much, how little, and strengths and weaknesses have alike been material to their progress. Different men, and when it says men, I guess it's just different people, must learn different things.
Oh no, we've made Robert Henri into politically correct.
Yeah.
No!
Each man must put himself as far as possible in the way of knowing what is known, and he must make his choices. Everything back of him is his heritage, to use or to leave. The school is a place of strengths and weaknesses. There are things insisted upon, and there are things omitted. There are all sorts of advices, good and bad, and there are advices that will serve one and not another. This is pretty much what we were saying the last time with, if you want to learn gesture, going to a school that's super heavy on perspective might not get you there, or vice versa. Going to an animation school to learn industrial design.
Yeah, because it all hinges on know why you're going and what you need out of the school that you're going to.
Yeah. And it's pretty redundant. He was saying the same thing in different words, but... should I continue?
I guess just skip to the parts that you think are
I don't know the parts. I haven't read this.
You did when I was in diapers.
Years ago, considering my memory. Okay. I'll just continue because what do we have? A couple pages left?
Yeah.
The man who goes into a school to educate himself and not to be educated will get somewhere. Yeah, that's what I just... Yeah.
Is that the same thing?
Yeah, but it's good. It's worth...
Like, Robert Henri, we take out all the pages in his book and just write, yeah.
What's annoying is, like, he'll say a sentence and it's like, God, I make a whole video just to say that one thing. It's much better when you just... The man who goes into a school to educate himself and not to be educated will get somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should start out a master of such as he has, however little that may be. By being master of such as he has in the beginning, it is likely he may later be master after years of study of much. That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
Yeah.
So you are a master of what you have.
What you start with. Yourself.
Yeah.
You have to hone whatever little you come into it with and know why and how you function and why you function and how long you function and in what context you function and for what purpose you function.
Grab hold of yourself and master yourself!
Yeah. Isn't that called masturbation?
Yeah. Do not be an amateur! You must have achieved mastery through years of hard work. Master yourself.
Oh, you're gone.
Yeah. That's okay.
He should not enter the school with any preconceived idea of his destiny. When I first read it, I'm bad at reading now, but I read dentistry.
Boy, did I go into school with no knowledge of my own dentistry.
Oh boy.
And then it just starts talking about teeth. In fact, he should be open and free. His aim should be to search deeply and work hard and let the outcome be what it may. The best art the world has ever had is but the impress left by men who have thought less of making great art than of living full and completely with all their faculties and the enjoyment of full play. That's what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
From these, the result is inevitable.
Yeah. A lot of people that I see, not just in art, not like everywhere, it seems to be so much fear. And like from the emitting sources, there's a lot of fear mongering. If you don't use this, then you'll suffer this cancer. You'll be alone forever. You'll be unsuccessful. You'll be homeless and starving on the street. You'll never be a good artist. You'll never be this. You'll never be that. Unless you follow our formula, or unless you subscribe to our newsletter, or you listen to our radio and follow our advice. And it's so like, where has fear been in making, like, you might be afraid of being less than what you want to be, but that's you competing with yourself, not you competing with an external image of what you should be. It's like, how much do I fit into what society would fashion me into, instead of, am I the person I want to be? Am I proud of who I see in the mirror? Am I proud when I think of what I've accomplished? Do I like showing people my work? Do I like the work? And this is one of your students, I believe it was Holly, who said something that I thought...
You don't name drop!
Sorry! Anyway, this is a good thing. She said something that was very, very wise. So Holly, if you're listening, I thought that was a great thing. She said, I want to be proud. I want to like the work that I'm showing people. And I think that's pretty much the crux of it. And I think she deserves props for it. Like, yes, you should be showing people things that you're not ashamed of. Things that are what you want to be known about.
Then how would I show them my face?
I would pose the same question.
Well, yeah, me too, but that's not what you work on. So like, think about even the people who are like into makeup and stuff. It's like they put makeup on because part of them, they want to show a certain thing to the world. They want the world to know a thing about them. If they do it out of fear, because like, oh, if they see my real face, they might not like me, or, you know, I'm not good enough, or my eyes are not cat-like enough. It's like, that's not good. But if it's like, no, this is what I have in my head, and this is what I will project, either by art, or by music, or by talking, or by looking a certain way, that's fine.
Okay. I shall continue?
Yeah.
The technique of a little individuality will be a little technique. Ooh. Yeah. However scrupulously elaborated it may be. However long studied, it still will be a little technique, the measure of the man. The greatness of art depends absolutely on the greatness of the artist's individuality, and on the same source depends the power to acquire a technique sufficient for the expression, or for expression. The man who is forever acquiring technique with the idea that sometime he may have something to express will never have the technique of the thing he wishes to express. Ooh, that spoke to me. I was trying to acquire technique. Yeah. Maybe when I'm good, I'll be able to express things. What I want to have in my mind, I can put it on the paper. Yeah. Intellect should be used as a tool. The technique learned without a purpose is a formula which, when used, knocks the life out of any ideas to which it is applied.
Yes. Yes.
That's what?
I just imagine us living in Robert Henri's time and going to his classes, and then he talks and talks, and we're all going like, yes, yes. Just
could we not just clap? Why do we need to achieve orgasm?
why do we need to climax? It'd be very ugly.
And I feel bad for whoever has to use the bench afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think we'd all be sitting in the same spot all the time because nobody would want to sit there.
In the corner puddle. Ew.
Oh, that's where we belong.
Alright. The great artist has cast a glow of romance over the cafe and Bohemia. It is not that he has spent much time there. He was always too busy with his work for that. It is because when he did go for relaxation, he put his wit, his humor, his vitality, and all himself into it. He made things hum, turned the sordid into romance, then disappeared back to his work, leaving a memory in Bohemia. Age need not destroy beauty. There are people who grow more beautiful as they grow older. If age means to them an expansion and development of character, this new mental and spiritual state will have its effect on the physical. A face, which in the early days was only pretty or even dull, will be transformed. The eyes will attain mysterious depths. There will be a gesture in the whole face of greater sensibility, and all will appear coordinate. About the portrait Whistler painted of his mother, I've always had a great feeling of beauty. She is old, but there's something in her face and gesture that tells of the integrity of her life. There is nothing wabbly about her face, as there is in the faces of those whose integrity has been uncertain. A wonderful record of woman's beauty would have been lost to the world if her son had not seen fit to look for any other beauty than that which was present. There she sits, and in her poise one reads the history of a splendid personality. She is at once so gentle, so experienced, and so womanly strong. She may have had other beauty in her youth, but it could not have surpassed this, which charms and fills us with reverence. It is more the gesture of a feature than the feature itself which interests and pleases us. The feature is the outside. Its gesture manifests the inner life. Beauty is an intangible thing, cannot be fixed on the surface, and the wear and tear of old age on the body cannot defeat it. Nor will a pretty face make, for pretty faces are often dull and empty, and beauty is never dull, and it fills all spaces. The dull face can be found on sites such as ArtStation.
Or Pixim.
Yeah. I don't know, I just kept thinking of that.
Yeah.
What is popular on Drawcrowd? And it's like, it's good work. I mean, in terms of technically, it's good. But
it's technically it's dull.
It's like, it's pretty, but
it's
not
exactly
deep.
what he's talking about. I wonder, Robert Henri browsing ArtStation. Just a commentary.
This is the scathing poetry.
Yeah. And then he talks about lace. So
skips the lace.
How far should I go?
This.
All right. Develop your visual memory. Draw everything you have drawn from the model from memory as well. Realize that a drawing is not a copy. It is a construction in very different material. A drawing is an invention. All right. Well, anyway, if you want to hear more of that, you should read The Art Spirit by Robert Henri.
Robert Henri was a nice man. And he's dead now.
Optimistic man.
Yeah, very optimistic man. Like when we have this man with self-made educators, and then we will not be afraid of schools.
We went in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, more dependent, more reliant on schools.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah.
And for an environment where information is free, it seems like there are certain hubs where there is this also fear is free. Not just information is dispersed, but also fear. No, if you don't do this, then you'll have to do this. Oh no, you have to do or die. And
a lot of fear mongering.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's how you keep people in check or keep them subscribed to your channel.
Yeah, because otherwise you can't really fight the information. It's like people will start making their own choices. People will start deciding that they want to go off the beaten path if you don't make them afraid.
Yeah, I was so... Like, when the internet started becoming very relevant and had tons of information, I was so hopeful. I was thinking like, yes, this is it. Finally, we can ease the grip of the schools that won't share. You cannot share this technique. And unless you have this many $100,000, you can't gain this information. I thought it would be an awakening and everyone would pool their knowledge and things would grow.
You were just like Robert Henry.
But it did kind of happen. But what didn't happen is that there was no judicious determination of what is worthy. People kind of just grouped themselves to whatever was like, oh, this person worked on this film, therefore what they're saying matters and I should take them into account. And they're saying this and therefore I will. It was too much of that. And sadly now, the place I think is the best place to learn from art is away from the internet.
Yeah.
It's like, just turn it off. Just stop watching this video. Go away. Draw. Figure yourself out.
There's no benefit you're gonna get from just information if you've been trained to be afraid of yourself.
Yeah, because the amount that's there will also overload you. And you spend so much time hearing about other people's paths and the ways they went ahead in.
Yeah.
There's this tendency to want to mimic that.
Yeah.
Oh, let me follow in those footsteps because clearly that person's gone somewhere. And I know that I will be safe if I follow
that's a very just looking for the parental authority. Because when you're scared and scared and scared, you're always knocked back into the child position of look up to the adults around you and what have they done and what should you be doing? Oh no, they say it's not good to touch the stove because it burns, therefore, oh, you better not reach for it, better stay away from it. And this is one of the ideas that I had, and we were going to talk about how very often I see people making the world into bite-sized pieces, small enough to fit in their brain, but not paying enough attention to making their brain stretched out to fit the reality around them, or to fit even their own desires and their own wishes. You will rather make things digestible. And this is why I have a problem. This is why I have a problem with easy storytelling, like making things palatable, making things accessible. It's like not everything should be accessible. There should be this minimal amount of work that the person needs to put in to achieve that information. It needs to be worth it. It needs to have a cost that you are willing to pay because you know it's worth it. It's like kind of like a down payment.
Yeah.
It's like, of course you're going to invest in it because it's worth investing. And out of all the things that are worth investing, oh, you can be anything if you follow your dreams. It's like, what? Anything? That's such a broad statement. That's enabling such confusion. It's like, what do you want to be? There's no weight given to who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do with your life? And so much, oh, you can be anything, you can do anything. It's just enabling just nothing, dispersing your into into like chasing after 100 targets at once.
And I think the ignorance in a way can be valuable if, for instance, if you're confronted with something that's insurmountable, but you don't know it's insurmountable, you'll try.
Yeah.
But if there's enough information telling you, no, you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're likely going to take that, what you may perceive as wisdom, to heart and not try. But there's this thing of, also with the do or die situations, if you do overcome them, you realize that it can be overcome.
Yeah.
But if you're just built on fear and you never learn to accomplish or overcome anything, you don't understand or you're not aware of what you're capable of doing. And that's something I see too, because it's something I heard about people that wouldn't win the lottery or anything like that, but they would become successful. And even when their businesses failed or whatever they were doing failed, they could manage to pick themselves up and become successful again.
Yeah.
And people who weren't successful would talk more about their, I didn't have this growing up. I didn't have good schools, or I didn't have education, or I didn't have money, or I couldn't do this. And it's that they never tried, or else they tried, but they never overcame enough obstacles and succeeded. Because once you've succeeded once, it's kind of like even with the art block thing. I have periods where I feel like I can't draw and things seem pretty bleak, but I know that I've been through this before. I know that this is a temporary condition, and her cats are fighting. Her cats are fighting. I'm trying to focus on what I'm saying, and they're just in the background, like, pouncing at each other and stuff, and making a ruckus. What was my point?
People, the successful people, even when they fail, they poke themselves back up.
Yeah, you learn that this is fine, you know.
I suppose a better term to be used other than fear, because I think fear can be good as a motivator,
sure.
But cowering is bad. Shrinking is bad. It's like when you have fear and you choose the flight instead of fight. That's when you stunt yourself.
Or you're just risk averse.
Well, yeah.
Because sometimes flight is necessary. You need to get away from the internet.
Sure, the internet. But you don't. That's the thing, because the internet doesn't make you afraid of it. It makes you crave it. It's an addiction. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. It's like, oh, crave more, eat more, ingest more, fill your time up, because the fear is of not succeeding, and that's what you're fleeing from.
I find the thing that I fear probably more than anything is losing agency of my mind. And having undue influence, in a way, is that.
Yeah.
Being exposed to too many things. For instance, if I feel like, well, I don't know, I just keep watching videos, or I keep it's like, wait a minute, this is not good.
Yeah.
Because you're not choosing something that you would like. Because if you ask, is this how you would like to spend the next hour? Would you like it to be just looking at dumb stuff or things that don't really matter? They're inconsequential. Yeah. I mean, maybe if I wanted a break, it's like, yeah, that's what I need. But otherwise, it's like, oh, I really was going to do a drawing, and then I got distracted.
Yeah, but if you needed a break, would you choose to let me decide what inconsequential things I want, or let somebody else decide what I'm going to click next, or what's going to come on? Like, okay,
you said if you needed, then would you let me? What?
No, not me.
You mean if I needed, would I let me?
Yeah, would you want to decide? Yeah, would you want to decide, oh yeah, I'd rather watch this, or would you just automatically click on something that is taking advantage of a connection formed in your brain, like the clickbait stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this is on the side. Oh, this is showing up anyway. It's like, that's a lack of agency in your break.
Where do you think focusing on self-knowledge leads in the end, though? Because this is something I'm wondering about. The idea of discovering yourself and, chase this. We don't really have the thing we don't have the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow to offer.
That's because everyone has a different pot of gold.
Yeah, but in a way, it limits what you can, or the strength of your argument. Because what someone who says, do exactly this and you will get into this industry and get this job offers is something concrete, something that, I can find work. Whereas what self-knowledge offers is your life could be anything. Yeah. It's up to you to figure out. And on top of that, you may screw yourself over. That is an option.
So, like, this is similar, less in intensity, to a very very bad scenario that happened with communism. Romania was under communism for maybe 50 years, and then after the fall of communism, everything was suddenly, whatever happens. You're not sure whether you're going to have a job, because whatever the communist regime was taking from the citizens, it was giving them security of job. It was giving them security of a house, a place to live in. And for a great many people, this was a welcome trade-off. I don't want to think. I don't care if I don't think for myself. I don't care if my life is preordained. I don't care if I have to eat what they give me to eat, because that's all they find in stores, so long as I don't have to worry.
Mm-hmm.
And they actively encouraged this idea that worry is the worst thing you can have. Worry about your future. Worry about... It's like, this just creates an army of people who will be averse to change, even for the better. This makes an army of people who will not be able to think for themselves, who will not be able to make reasonable and healthy decisions. This creates a lot of people who would prefer something stale to something fresh and good, just because the stale thing is what they've become accustomed to. And on the flip side, you have people who, it's like, I don't care if I don't know, or I care if I don't know if I'm going to work for the same company in 2 months, so long as my life at the end of it will have been fulfilling and enriching, and I will have made what I want to make of myself. And for a lot of people, they're very afraid that this doesn't mean much. What they want to make of themselves doesn't mean much, but it means everything.
Yeah.
It means... like, you as an individual are your own goal. How can you be fooled into thinking that's not enough? That's not a good pot of gold? That is the pot of gold. That is the Holy Grail. That is the eternal youth. That is the everything. If you make something, if you create you, because you are never you when you start up. You become you. You make yourself into you. So leaving that behind is what I think matters. Yeah,
and choosing the life you want over life, period. Because I think, in a way, life is it's overhyped, just life.
Yeah.
Like, you are alive, you are breathing, that is good. It's like, is it? Is that it? That's just because, like, are there no higher aspirations than I am able to live?
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't know, to me, that kind of life has always been scarier than death.
Yep. Just being a zombie.
Yeah, just not having control of your life. Or, this is it. It's like, you don't have infinite time to screw around with everything and being every state. And I'm going to be just following the crowd for 100 years, and then I'll try doing my own thing for another 100 years, and I'll decide which one I prefer. It really is, at some point, you have to decide who you are and what you want to be, and then work to make that happen. And if you're not working to make that happen, you're kind of working in the opposite to ensure that it does not happen.
Yeah.
And finally, I want to rant about food.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is something that I have been bothered by in North America for, what? I don't know, 15, 20 years? I kept asking people this, and people weren't seeing it, but I would ask them, like, do you think the tomatoes are getting worse? Like, do you taste this? Like, the tomatoes are getting worse, right? Do you taste this? And people, well, it's about the same to me. It's like, no, they're getting worse. They're like, oh, the potatoes aren't, this isn't what it used to be. And then when I went to Romania, oh boy, it was so much better. So coming from North America and going to Romania. But even then, I started to taste, like, I was only there for 2 years.
You were only
there
for 2 years.
But things were getting worse.
Yeah, because I was giving you the countryside tomatoes, and you were also having the store-bought tomatoes, which were getting worse and were following that curve.
Yeah, but yeah, when I had countryside food, just food that's not grown with fertilizer or preservatives or anything, pesticides, it's just grown. And that's it.
It grows, because plants grow. That's what they do. They grow.
Yeah.
Out of the ground.
Yeah.
Whoa.
They don't need to be humongous or pretty, but They taste really good.
Oh!
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is from a person not having gone to North America at all until the past, year?
Yeah.
So, we went to a supermarket, and Sycra found a spray that you use to spray on your food to remove the wax from the food.
Yeah, it removes wax and chemicals.
It removes wax and chemicals.
Yeah, there's a spray. There's a vegetable cleaner. Because I'm like, what? Why vegetable cleaner? Why not just water? And it's like, it removes more wax. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I knew, like, we knew in Romania, we knew as an urban legend kind of thing that, you know what the Americans do? They put wax on their food.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that's funny.
Yeah. And then, so being here has been that just things are getting worse and just astonished that people aren't noticing it. I went to this British chocolate store and I got a chocolate bar and it was as it should be.
Because it was imported.
It was imported from England. And then I got the exact same bar that was Canadian.
Made in Canada.
And awful. Just awful. We ate popcorn and it tastes like cardboard.
It tastes like cardboard. Like
cardboard.
we just
this is cardboard,
this
right?
is corn. This is native to this country. Yeah. I don't understand it.
How did you make it taste like cardboard?
How? Yeah.
I was genuinely surprised. I was eating it. It's like, I don't think this is supposed to taste this way.
And they only...
it's not just... Because, North America is bad, but it's getting worse and worse.
Everywhere, yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
This is not food. And they keep giving us things, and it's like, this is lettuce, right? This is not lettuce.
This is not lettuce.
What is...
And you eat a burger and it's dribbling and it's drizzling with some ooze that you can't really identify. And there's so much salt in everything. If it's not salt, it's sugar. If it's not salt or sugar, it's fat. And usually it's all of those three combined. There is like everything tastes like sugar.
Yeah.
I had a slice of bread and of white bread.
Oh! Okay.
And it tasted like cake, but bad.
Yeah. So the bread that when I came back, because I was in Romania. As I hope I don't sound super douchey and full of myself now, because it sounds kind of hipstery. But anyway, they had like our softest bread ever. I'm like, since when is that like a thing? You have to be the softest ever? Not like it tastes better, just our softest ever. Yeah. And then I got one loaf and it was wet inside. It wasn't even cooked properly. But fine, that could just be, okay, fine. It didn't cook properly.
How is
when
it
it's
fine?
all the time.
How is it fine?
And it's just...
How is it fine? It's bread.
It's not fine, but I mean, it's excusable because it could just be that one instance,
come on.
They just didn't cook it well that one time.
How many times did we eat? How many times have I eaten food and gotten sick here?
A lot.
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
I get so depressed after eating it.
So is it something you know? Okay, if you're from North America, do you notice this? Or am I alone?
You're not alone, but are we alone?
Yeah, are we alone? It's like, if you don't notice, it's only going to get worse. That was the thing I was so afraid of. Because I would ask people, do you notice? Do you notice? And like, no, it tastes the same. And no. Because if you can't tell, they can keep doing this to you.
Yeah,
they can keep screwing you over.
And to us, I have so much trouble finding things that are edible for me.
You found a Mexican tomato.
I found Mexican vegetables, certain ones that are fine in terms of taste, but it's like they want to sell vegetables even when they're off season because they want to make more profit. However, what that does, thankfully for Mexico, because it's in the weather that it is, they're in season pretty much all the time, and I suppose that works to my benefit and everyone else's benefit. But they put so much stuff in them. They put they taste the tomatoes, the ones you find everywhere with all the wax on them. It's like get rid of all the wax, and they taste like watery stems. Like I've eaten tomatoes from the countryside that I have grown in the garden, and the stems tasted like that. You're eating the wrong part of it. This is not what are you supposed
But,
to
okay, so Mexico has a climate, but then how were the Dutch tomatoes so good? The ones from the Netherlands.
The Belgium tomatoes, I have no idea. I have no idea what they did to them, but they must have taken more care to at least, like, flavor is a thing. Flavor is a thing. Flavor is something
and
that you
when
should
we cut the red peppers and the coloring came out?
Oh my god, we cut vegetables and you cut them on the cutting board and it's just dribbled and, bleh, and just colored water. It's like red peppers, tomatoes, even like cucumbers, carrots, everything.
Well, when I went to Romania, remember what happened? Okay, so the first day I went to Romania,
yeah, the second day.
Second day, Flavia bought bread and sour cream.
Yeah, I snuck out to the nearby bakery.
I mean, for me, that doesn't sound great. It's like bread and sour cream. That's not going to be good. Like bread and something, like you should have like cheese or this and that, whatever. At least make something of it. Just bread and sour cream. And I was just almost in tears, like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
You ate 2 breads.
Oh, it was so good. It was just,
I do remember when I went.
And then we went to Sultan Süleyman, which was a Turkish restaurant, and it was, oh my god, it was so good.
You were so angry eating it.
It's like, why is this so good? This is a tomato. I don't even like tomatoes, but it's really great.
I think it was the first time when I went over there and had some. It was just, I don't know. I was surprised. It's just like, I've never had cooked tomatoes that weren't not bitter and gross. And then I ate the cooked tomatoes and it's like, oh my god. So this is what food tastes like. And I was that way with the bread as well. It's just like, oh shit, this is bread.
And for me, it was like, coming here, it was like, why doesn't everything taste like it's supposed to taste?
I feel really sad for you guys because I grew up with this really bad food.
I grew up with it too, but I saw it getting worse.
At least you grew up some in England.
In England, yeah, that probably helped.
You knew the chocolate.
Yeah.
I don't like chocolate, but it's just like for vegetables and for like eggs. Eggs taste like bad grain. They're not supposed to taste like that. How do you? And they're just like so disgusting to eat. It's like no wonder. Oh, eat your vegetables, and no kids want to eat their vegetables if they taste like this. How are they gonna eat it?
And nothing's safe anymore. We had Häagen-Dazs, and Häagen-Dazs used to be fine. It's like, that's a good brand. It's international. It's pretty consistent across the board. And now it tastes like, wait, what?
What was that?
This is supposed to be ice cream. It's not frozen cream. Just nothing. Just awful. Anyway, all right. So that's the end of that rant, I guess.
Yeah. Let us know if you suffer with us.
What are your favorite colors? Do you realize North America's food is going to the toilet? All right. So, thanks to my special guests.
Very special.
Very unusual.
Duh.
Super special.
Haven't seen you for a long time, Bob. Thanks to Bob and Flavia. And thanks to all of you for watching. Bye-bye.